stories with somebody else, that's amazing. Some people don't like fantasy novels altogether. That's awesome. My grandma, I've given her one fantasy novel, and she was like, this is hokey ass bullshit. And I was like, you know what? Fair. I am on board with that. As long as it floats her boat. She likes reading mysteries. I can't do a mystery. I hate guessing. I hate being like, okay, what the fuck happened? Unless it is done properly. For me, again, this is a very subjective kind of space that I'm entering into, and I think there's too much absolutism in the world of sort of art review, I guess, where people are just like, well, that TV show is bad, that movie is bad. See, the Star Wars trilogy, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I personally have massive issues with it, but I like 7 and 8. Notice there is a conspicuous absence from that. But anyway, art review, nothing is absolutist. For example, I love The Acolyte. Sorry. I love The Acolyte. I love that it brings diversity to Star Wars. I like that it brings a different perspective on the Force. I like that it, it does so many things right. It does a couple things, but it's so fucking good. It's so amazing. Is it Andor? No, but do I like what it does? Sometimes better than Andor. Yeah, nothing will ever beat the prison arc of Andor, though. I honestly think that is probably the greatest few episodes of television ever created for me. See that there's a pattern here for me. This is because I want to hammer home that this, as far as I've read on Goodreads, is a generally warmly received book. Lukewarm to warm. Where it's the same as a lot of the Dark Academia books that I have read. The Atlas 6, Curious Tides, and A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. That Atlas 6 by Olivier Blake and Curious Tides by Pascal Lascelles are all sort of, they get mixed reviews because I think Dark Academia is really for some people and it really isn't for other people. So, like I said, if you have read this book, if it sounds like something that you want to get, go for it. I enjoy that for you. I am just not going to be participating in the rest of this trilogy because, oh my god. So, we are going to start with my reading experience of this. So, this is a Dungeons and Dragons book. Literally, it is in collaboration with Wizards of the Coast. There was a lawsuit, which is why I think the book is a little bit why it is. This one is Dragonlance, which, if you are not familiar with the setting, Dragonlance is like a classic D&D setting from the 80s that is set in this sort of lower magic kind of world. It is a lot more medieval. It is fantasy. Still, there is magic and a pantheon of actual gods that are real and all that kind of stuff. So it is quite high fantasy in that way, but the magic does kind of take a back seat. It is not well embraced by this entire world as much as it is in other fantasy settings where the magic system is like participated in by everybody or by a certain few and others are like fully aware of it and accepting of it, I should say. So, like I said, I'm going to start with my experience of this book. So I open this book, first of all, I purchase it, and the back sounds great. series as far as I was concerned, but this is not, as I was led to believe, linked with classic Dragonlance other than Tasselhoff Burfoot. So I read it. I begin reading it, I should say. And it is very slow. But I would say that it is deliberately slow in the very beginning. And it is also quite... a lot happens in the beginning of the book. On Goodreads, you will find that they call the first half, give or take, I would say probably the first third, I would say, is, yes, quite slow, but a lot of shit happens. Like, 2 different wars happen. The gods come back. Destina Rosethorn kills a goblin. The castle is under siege. Destina loses the castle. Her dad dies. She is a complete nutter bitch to her mom. Like, a lot of shit goes on in this book. Like, entire books worth of like quest can be found within this. So much so that sometimes it's like, oh, the war is over. Okay, I thought that this was going to be way more. Like, the setup of this book leads me to believe that the War of the Lands will have ended, but the evil will not have gone away. But literally, off screen, off page, the War of the Lands is over. The heroes have driven away the evil dragons. Magic is back. The gods are back. Everything's doing good. So I was like, okay, where does this go from here? And yeah, it goes. It certainly does go. So, then to continue on with my experience of reading this book, I continue reading, and it is still written in a style that becomes grating. Destina Rosethorn turns out to be, I would say, one of the stupidest people in literature. And I don't think that I'm exaggerating. This protagonist is like just plain dumb. Like, awful. It is a glaring flaw. It is a glaring flaw. And she's not even like barbarian dumb, like in the D&D sense of the word. She's just an idiot, like a complete and total, like, she goes to this magical shop in the big city of Palanthus, and she walks in, and she has to secure the device of time journeying, last known to be in the possession of the spirited kender, Tasselhoff Burfoot. She knows this. It is written about in a book that she has read about this device. And it is legendary as a magical device. And she walks into what is essentially a pawn shop and says, "Hello, 1 device of time journeying, please." And it's like, have you not, like, what has she been doing? She clearly wasn't reading, but she read the book about this device. When she read a book that had mention of this device in it, it's not as if she could read She is very plucky, naive, yes, but like to, as we just discussed, a dizzying extent, and it just goes off the fucking rails. She doesn't do anything. Everything happens to her. If we are talking in Dungeons and Dragons terms, Destina Rosethorn is rolling critical 20s or critical 1s. Nothing in between. Either the king of the dwarves lets her purchase the rarest, most dangerous artifact known to this universe, the Grey Gem, and then walk out of the kingdom with it. Or she travels back in time and changes the most important night in history. It would be, I can't even imagine it. Like, it would be like if somebody traveled back in time in our history and just like was like, you know what, we could do without a few million people, and just started like bang, 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 and then thought that the present day would go just fine. It is a baffling work of literature. So the last 6 chapters are completely incoherent, because all of a sudden we get a dump truck load of characters foisted upon us who are decently written, yes, but there are about 10 new characters that we need to get intimately familiar with. And I just couldn't. I skimmed through the last, and then I read the last chapter, and it doesn't tie itself together whatsoever. This is the most clear first book in a trilogy book I've ever read. It does not accomplish anything except fucking everything up majorly. Nobody wins anything. Time is about to be knocked completely off course. Like I said, it would be the equivalent of somebody traveling back in time to try to avert D-Day. It would be like, what the fuck are you doing? So anyway, this book is not one that I would recommend at all. And now we are about to get into it. Who do I recommend this book for? Well, I now know, after looking at Goodreads, that this book relies intensely on the classic Dragonlance novels for you to be able to understand the back half of it. And it doesn't make that clear, because all of a sudden I need to know the history between Caraman and Rice Linmasher. I need to know who Tika Whalen is. I need to know a bit about who Dazzleoff Burfoot is. I need to know who Goldmoon is. I need to know who, like, Tanis Hath Elven is. I need to know who Flint Fireforge is. I need to know who Sturm Brightblade is. You need so much background knowledge to be able to enjoy the conclusion of this book, which I have heard now, looking on review websites, people do generally like the end of this because they know who these fucking people are. As somebody who is new to this, classic characters. So I was like, you know what? This is a soft reboot. Tasselhoff Burfoot's in it. I recognize that name from my D&D books. So there's going to be some connection there, but I was not aware that this was going to be pandering. And I hate that word. I absolutely do. Because I think it is used to dismiss some very good literature out of hand. See our discussion about Star Wars earlier. There are a lot of awful people who will tell you, oh, well, this is pandering. This is pandering to the woke audience. This is pandering to women. This is pandering to the gays. That's not criticism. It's not. I'm sorry. If you are watching a story that is made with a female protagonist who happens to be black, that is not pandering. That is just called a main character. Get over it. You are a triggered, sensitive idiot. If your protagonist is not white, male, and straight, all of a sudden we decide to lose all of our shit, piss our pants, and throw a tantrum. Idiocy. The Star Wars fandom. Those elements of it. Complete idiocy. Stupid people. Bad people. In fact, this is pandering, probably done right. Except it's not pandering to me because I don't know this story. And it makes this book very inaccessible, where I far rather would have read in a continuation of the New York Times best-selling Dragonlance series. I would far rather read a continuation of it, or be told that this is a continuation, and then be guided to purchase the original trilogy. An original trilogy which I likely would like, but I kind of don't want to because I have a very bad taste in my mouth, especially for these two authors. So anyway, this is now getting to the lawsuit because Wizards of the Coast greenlit the production of this book I think quite a while ago. I think 2017 or something like that. And then they canned it, and then the author sued, and now it's a trilogy. So something obviously happened where the first part of this book feels as though it is meant to be that reboot. We have a new heroine, we have a new perspective on this universe, something fresh so that a new audience can get into it. And then the last half of the book is so jam-packed with old characters that it frankly feels like a different book. It honestly does feel like when Destina is getting to the town of Solace, it feels like that is the start of the book, because there is even a difference in the way that her physical appearance is described when she gets to Solace. I am not saying that Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss, I almost switched their last names, I'm not saying that they're lazy writers, because obviously they have written successful art. And this is a book for sure. They've written something. But it is indicative of, I would believe, laziness, because it feels like they wanted to write the version of this book that the last half is, where we are introducing all of the old characters, but a new fresh spin or perspective on them, rather than writing a reboot to the series that Destina's story is supposed to be. So, I would say that if you are a person who likes classic Dragonlance, begin this book right before Destina Rosethorn makes it to Solace. So here is Tasselhoff. I would say you can probably yes, just thrown all the way to the fucking wind, except for the fact that Destina Rosethorn has the Grey Gem. Other than that, you could leave it. You'd be a bit confused when Ungar gets trapped in prison, and a little bit confused as to who Cairn is, but they don't really matter. Okay, then you also have Dalamar, then you have Lunitari and Nuitari. It's just, it's a lot. So, let's get into my actual problems with this book now. I'm gonna put it down because I'm sick and tired of holding it. So, my problems with the book. I am going to try to keep this brief because we've already talked about plot structure. It is one book for the first 2/3 and then another book for the last third. The back half of the book is definitely where things pick up action-wise, but pick up as in, and Destina walked up to the gate wardens of Thorbarton and requested to speak with the Dwarven High King without a single word as to who she is. He agrees to see her. He sends her with his most trusted magical advisor to go find the Grey Gem, which is the most dangerous magical artifact on Earth. It would be as if somebody got their hands on on a fucking atomic bomb plus 1 billion that would release the god of chaos if it ever exploded, and then let her walk out of the kingdom with it. Granted, this is because the god that the dwarves are really tight with tells him that the gem should stay with her. He is the biggest idiot for letting her leave. So there is a very fast pace. That all happens within she visits the Dwarven Kingdom. She spends, I would say, roughly a week there or so, and then she's done. She's got the Grey Gem. She's got literally the most dangerous artifact in the fucking world halfway through the book, and she just has it hanging around her neck. This is also where she loses all agency, by the way. She has nothing to do with the plot until the climax, where she decides to go back in time to basically avert D-Day. So, her character. Let's start. The beginning of the novel is written in, I would say, very stuffy, feudal, medieval. My father is a knight, and I am a female, therefore I must marry. I thought she was going to be much more feminist than she actually is. She is not. She is the kind of girl who dreams about marrying a boy so that she can keep a hold of her father's castle. It is very standard. And she gives a level of hero worship to her father that I don't believe is warranted. It's a little bit strange. And she fucking hates her mom. She despises her mom. I cannot say this enough. Her mom literally abandons her, leaves her once the castle is out of the inheritance. Once Destina is no longer in line to inherit the castle, her mom is like, you know what? You've been a bitch to me your whole life. I'm out. I'm gonna live my life as a nature cleric. And they never see each other again for the whole book. I was floored. She is so mean to her mother. She is unwarranted, abusive towards her mother. It is redonkulous the way that she treats her mom. And then her father, on the other hand, he shits gold in her eyes. He can do no wrong. Her entire quest is literally to go back in time to make one of the greatest hero it is such a petty motivation too. I understand that she wants it so bad, and the beginning of the book really does a decent job of setting up that she wants it so bad, but like, okay, Destina also hates magic, but she ends up using a shitload of magic without really much character development to make her a person who likes or trusts magic. So that's bizarre. Did I mention that she is god-awful to her mother? I felt so bad for her mom. She is, again, very much in like this mindset of it is very feudal Europe. Again, like I said, where it's like, I know that I don't love him, father, but his family has money, and having a husband will make it so that I inherit the castle. It's like, okay, odd, but okay. But then, like, she quotes the Bible, which is called the Measure in this universe, but she quotes it like all the fucking time, and she is strictly adherent to it. Her mom reads tea leaves, and she is so cruel to her mother about this fact, and she'll be like, well, mother, the measure says that we as women must not be. And it's like, okay, like, I get it. I don't need tired gender roles in my fantasy novel. I am sorry. She does break those gender roles. Her mother breaks those gender roles mostly, and Destina kind of does, but she's very much like, she is very much a product of the Solamnia, which is the country that she lives in. She's very much adherent to Solamnic gender norms, which, sorry, I'm trying to find my charging cord here. She's very adherent to Solamnic gender norms, which are very reductive, very close to sort of a woman as property kind of thing, which again, it's like, I feel like that's been done in fantasy so often, and it's just not 2024. It's I mean, Jane Austen is more progressive than this novel, so like, I mean, Jane Austen is more progressive than tons of novels out there, but like, that's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a Dungeons and Dragons novel that is more buttoned up and more traditional gender rolesy than like Jane Austen. And there's fucking magic in this world. This story could have been anything except it's a story about a woman losing out on her inheritance because she is a woman, and her father didn't make a copy of his own will, so that disinherits her as a woman, because technically the castle goes to his brother, who's an asshole, or his cousin, something, or like the yeah, I think it's his cousin or his nephew or something. Yeah, it's Destina's cousin, so it's his nephew. And literally, the reason why the castle is taken out of her inheritance is because she is a fucking woman. Okay, so, cool, whatever. Destina, hateable, very idiot, very much an idiot. Yes, she's young, but nobody is this stupid. Like, in so many cases, no one is this stupid. And then by the end of the book, she is such a morally compromised individual that you're just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, she is willing to magically alter her appearance. She hates magic, by the way. She's willing to magically alter her appearance to manipulate Tasselhoff Burfoot into giving her, and she is dogged in this pursuit. She manipulates Tasselhoff Burfoot into giving her information about where the device device of time journeying is, and she does it in the sickest way possible, to the point where this poor guy thinks that he is married to her shape-shifted form. And she's just like, well, yeah, it's an undesirable outcome, but I need to save my father. It's like, it's awful. It's awful. Maybe this review is more negative than I thought it was going to be, but honestly, this book is awful. It's a waste of time, honestly. Like, I feel bad saying it, but it's just, I can't understand who this book was for, who would enjoy this book. I mean, like I said, there are some people that would enjoy the last third of this book for sure, but the first is just, it's a clusterfuck. It's a cluster. It ignores its own character development. It has incredibly unlikable characters. The dialogue and the writing is not very good. There will be times in which Destina will be like, so where is the device of time journeying? And then, she'll be like, hello, I'm here to purchase a device of time journeying. And then the wizard who owns the shop is like, what are you talking about? And then he laughs, and she's like, how dare you mock me, good sir? I am looking to save my father. Like, she will fly off the fucking handle, and then he'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, good lady, but I actually meant this. And she'll be like, oh, okay. And it's like, you were just upset with him. She is so indignant at times as well. Like, when she's in the Dwarven Kingdom, once she's gotten the Grey Gem, the guy who she's gotten the Grey Gem with is a Dergar, which is like a dark dwarf kind of, it's like a dark elf, but a dwarf, and he's like generally undesirable among the Dwarven people, and I guess he dropped her off at the inn after she got the Grey Gem. That wasn't made very clear, but then she wakes up, and then she goes to have breakfast, and the lady who's like the waitress at the bar is like, you shameful hussy, how dare you sleep with one of his kind? And it's like, whoa, okay. Racism is very alive and well in this world as well. And then she just eats her meal and gets going. The Destina that I know would have been like, the Destina that I know, like, slaps shit out of her mom's hands. Like, her mom is reading the dregs at the bottom of a glass of wine, and she'll like smack it out of her mom's hands. But she's called a whore, and she's just like, okay, and then she leaves. It's like, can we get some consistency? And then same thing for her mother. She'll be like, mother, you harebrained kook, how dare you think that the tea leaves have the fate of everything in them? And then the mother will be like, we mustn't disobey the omens. And then Destina will be like, yes, you're so right. And it's like, it's whiplash in a book, and she's just mean. She's so mean to her mom. She's just not a good person. She's not. She's selfish. She's rude. She's indignant. She's a little bit of a Karen. And like, she tries to romantically manipulate one of the guys at the Great Library to get to the device of time journeying, which is put under like strict lock and key. And he discovers this, and he's like, you tried to charm me. What are you doing? And she'll be like, how dare you think I tried to charm you? I'm trying to save my father. You must understand. And it's like, shut up. I hate you. I fucking hate her. She's such an idiot. She's so mean. And then the authors themselves Rose Thorn is just a recipe for disaster, and I hated it. Actually, this has been kind of fun. Now that I think about it, I said that I wasn't meaning to be rude, but honestly, this was an awful book. See, okay, this is why I like doing these review videos, because it really is an exercise in stream of consciousness. This is the kind of book that I would write an essay about, like I did with the Atlas 6, because the Atlas 6 is awful, but this is much more of an unmitigated disaster than the Atlas 6. And that's saying something from my perspective. So, I would like to qualify again. This is all my opinion. If you have read this book and like it, I love that for you. I am very happy that that floats your boat. It did not float mine. It put a massive hole in the bottom of it. But that is for me. For you, if something worked, if you identify with something about Destina, I'm happy for you. I really am. I'm not saying this condescendingly, but I can't with this book. I thought maybe I would get the second one. Not happening. It's not for me. I don't think. But if it is for you, thank you. I'm glad that you are participating in literature and liking it. So, with that being said, thank you for letting me yell and rant. I'm sorry that it took this long. I'm sorry that it was so negative. But thank you for letting me get this off my chest. I really honestly didn't know that I needed